Welcome to the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals, Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. If you are phoning in, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. MCTV is taping our meeting tonight, for those interested. And I'm going to do a roll call since Grover's out there.
Larry Keane here.
Brian Sullivan, present.
Brian Murphy here.
Heidi Palmer here.
Jean Lee here.
Mac Brothers here.
Programs here.
Oh,
All right,
Hey, there he is.
so we have
wake up.
Hello.
2521 Sam T. Malafronte. Petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 5'10" by 5-foot landing with associated stairs on property located on 36 Crane Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel K11 1505, located in the R3 zoning district. Go ahead.
Good evening. Sam Alfronti, owner and applicant of 36 Crane Road. So I purchased the home just about 2 years ago now. And one of the odd things I found quickly was that the existing deck was only accessible from inside the house. So it kind of left only one access point. So this is kind of something I reached out to Nancy and Andrew probably about a year ago. And I've always wanted to have a secondary access egress to the deck from the backyard. It is an existing non-conforming structure. The side setback is 13.7 in existing conditions, and we're proposing to exacerbate that side setback to 8.3 feet with the 5-foot landing and stairs. And I do need to, I've spoken with Michael, the Conservation Administrator, I do need to get an RDA with the Conservation Commission. And then I believe Andrew said I do need a building permit prior to constructing this too. I'll most likely be hiring a contractor to do this, so.
All right.
You don't want to dig those footings yourself.
No, I don't. I figure someone could get this done in
These are,
a lot shorter time than I can.
they're the wrong notes.
Oh.
Bob, did you send notes in? I thought I read them.
Are these different?
So
These are last-
this is not going to be a covered deck or landing. Andrew, does an uncovered deck have to comply with the side yard setback?
Yeah, so that was kind of the deal is it can encroach into half of the side yard setback is a deck that's under 4 feet. This deck is 5'5" or so it's gonna be a little bit over 4 feet, which means it can only go 2 feet into the required setback. So the house itself is already over a foot into the required setback, so that's why this is a kind of an extension of that existing nonconformity. You know, the house is already nonconforming on that side, and they just want to have a egress deck, basically. I think that, you know, doing this would actually make the house safer, to have two means of egress like that on opposite ends of the house.
Thank you, Andrew. I agree. I see it as a
Yeah, that's kind of,
safety issue.
that's kind of how I saw it in the door that leads out to the deck now. It's not a standard door. It's pretty narrow. And I have a family member that's in a wheelchair, so they can't get to the deck right now. So this will help that as well. I kind of see if there were to ever be a blockage in the doorway to the house, the only way to get off the deck is to jump, really, right now.
Yeah.
I mean, as Andrew indicated, it's not very high, but for someone that's not,
Well, it depends if you like the relative. You
yeah, exactly.
All
God,
depends.
Brian.
So, yeah.
All right, anything else from the audience?
Yeah, we have a quick question that was to it. We're 30, I guess it's considered 30 Crane Road, which is the lot that's in between, and also 46 Standish, which cuts on the backside. Is the
Actually,
deck-
can you come up, because they can't hear you.
To this podium.
Yes, please.
I didn't get a haircut, so I wasn't.
So name and address for the record.
It's gonna be, I guess it'd be, 46 Standish Road, and also, I guess what you guys call it, 30 Crane Road, which is the lot that's right beside him.
All right.
Murray, his last name and stuff on it, and to Sarah, she didn't keep my last name. But, our question, the only question that we had for it is the deck going further towards the lot. Is it going wider towards closer to the property edge, the easement, I guess you want to call it? Is the deck becoming wider, so it's coming further into the property? And if that would stop or prevent anything that could happen to that lot to being built in the future, as far as any setback laws or rules or whatnot, whatever.
You talking about, would it affect an unbuilt lot?
What, adjacent?
Yeah, it's
lot?
covered, the adjacent lot 30 is an unbuilt lot still.
Okay.
So you're thinking, would his thing affect
So-
your lot?
The question is, no, I think the deck, I'm kind of familiar with the gentleman that owned it before, his deck, with he's talking about the width. So is the width going wider, closer towards the unfinished lot? Is it going towards 30 Crane Road wider?
I'm not,
If I may, this is a picture of we're putting the money, I think, in stairs. So I guess in short, yes.
Yeah,
we'd be
so the
closer.
question would be where the landing is gonna go and the deck that he's talking about, so it's gonna be coming further out of the property
Yes, it's going off the side of the house. An
towards,
additional to the left, as you're standing on Wilson Road, looking at the front of the house.
right, so our property is 30 Crane Road, which is the lot right beside it, that's unbuilt right now.
That's the next.
Andrew, can you pull that up and show it to us?
I have a picture
Something
here.
Heidi does.
We got the picture.
Yep.
So the question is, will anything that he does affect your
your
ability
unbuilt
to
lot.
build on that unbuilt lot next door?
Correct, so.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That
that's what I
setback
thought
on
you-
that, is that gonna restrict the house and stuff, or will that affect that setback? I know you're giving a 2-foot grace, which is cool, fine, no problem and all that, but is there a certain amount of footage that 2-foot extension is gonna be preventing that?
No, you
build-
can't prevent the
lot.
neighbor's yard. Your yard is your yard.
Okay,
Your
so
setbacks
if
have
we
nothing
were
to do
gonna
with
put
his setback.
so if, say, if the house went on there and it had a deck, we could just stay within the same amount of footage, it doesn't affect him at all, correct?
Right.
It doesn't affect us building there, that lot being built.
No, whatever your setbacks are your setbacks.
Your lot's your lot.
Yeah.
Perfect, that's all we wanted to know.
Yeah.
you.
Perfect.
Anything else? Andrew, you have anything to add?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Good question.
Move to close.
Yes. Second, all in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's application for a special permit, subject to the conditions, building permit, based on the findings that the applicant's proposal to construct a 5-foot 10 by 5-foot landing with associated stairs on the property located at 36 Crane Road, as shown on a site improvement sketch dated March 12, 2025, by Solly Engineering, Norwood, Mass., meets the special permit criteria of section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
What are we doing on this one?
So now we have 2516 Stephen Barrett, 882 Ocean Street is withdrawn without prejudice.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Grover? Thank you. Stephanie Dimitro, 468 Plain Street. I move that we extend this hearing until, what's the date I'm using, Nancy?
6/23/2026.
6/23/2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
All right, now we have 2502 Celebrity Realty LLC off Main Street.
We did it.
I said it right.
But it was celebrity.
Celebrity, I keep calling it.
I think it cruises every time this comes up.
Chairman,
Yes,
I don't know if it makes sense to open the variance at the same time.
well, they're already open, right, Bob? Go ahead.
Yes, you opened the variance at the last hearing,
Okay.
So they're both open.
or 2 hearings ago.
I hope we don't have to go there, but so that way we can discuss between the two of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
So we don't have the comments from, what's his name?
And
Today we did it.
No, I need these comments.
We're flying. We're flying sooner.
I'm gonna wing it.
Right.
I know nothing. I see nothing.
Thank you.
You can have these.
For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing Celebrity Realty LLC. Also with me on via Zoom tonight is attorney Peter Freeman, as well as the applicant Rob Celebrity. This is a continued special permit application for the property at 0 Main Street, approximately an 18.8 acre parcel in size. It's in the R1 zoning district. On the plan before you and on the screen, I've highlighted in pink the limits of the inland wetlands overlay district on the property. We filed applications for 4 special permit requests. The first one in regards to section 11.03 of the bylaw, which was filling in excess of 500 cubic feet of land associated with the project. And then the next 3 are with respect to section 13.01. There's section C1, C2, and C3, all in regards to the inland wetlands district. Since the last meeting, we've submitted revised plans. The revisions on the plans included adding a boulder wall behind the stormwater detention basin parcel. And secondly, we took the house on Lot 2, which was inside the inland wetlands district, and we moved it outside of the district. I also forwarded to the board a copy of correspondence from the fire department deputy Corbo, who doesn't seem to have been aware that all of these houses are proposed with sprinkler and cistern systems for fire suppression. And his email indicated that he would be okay with that. That would be acceptable. I just delivered to you, and it was emailed previously, correspondence from our counsel, Peter Freeman, and Peter will speak to that in just a minute. We also received email today from Andrew Stewart in regards to the special permit requests. One of the special permits that we had applied for, the 13.01C1, was for construction of the house on Lot 2 in the district. We no longer need that now. The house has been moved outside of the district. So you'll see Andrew's correspondence. I'm sure he'll chime in regarding the 3 other special permits we request. I'm going to turn it over to Peter at this moment to run through his letter.
Sure. Can you folks hear me and see me?
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much. Again, for the record, Peter Freeman, Moriarty, B. Malloy, representing the applicant. So I'm just going to give highlights and then naturally available for questions. But looking at the inland wetlands bylaw, we, and I expressed this in my memo to Mr. Galvin, Bob Galvin, your town attorney, and to Mr. Stewart, who very nicely spoke to us about it at the end of last week. In any event, I actually don't think, and this memo supports it, that the project needs, that the subdivision needs a special permit. And if that's the case, then it doesn't need a variance. The variance relates to a requirement to connect to public water, municipal water. The basic synopsis is in the bylaw itself, that Rob just cited, the Inland Wetlands Protection Bylaw. There are 3 conditions that if you meet, then you're exempt. And all those conditions we meet, and Greg can explain that. But the preface is that the district regulations shall not apply to a parcel of land with respect to which a building or use permit is sought. So we submit, and my memo goes into great detail, I won't go over the entire thing. We submit that because none of the house lots that are being proposed are within the district, the road itself isn't applying for a subdivision approval. It's not an application for a use permit or a building permit. And there's strong case law on that distinguishes the purposes of zoning from subdivision control law, where subdivision control doesn't get into use. So for that part of it, I'll just stop there. Certainly, I know you just got the memo, but we believe that it shouldn't apply at all. Even if it does apply, and I think Mr. Stewart is looking at the subdivision now as one whole parcel in terms of how it relates to this bylaw, because it's not subdivided yet. That's kind of a chicken and egg. But if that's the case, then even if we needed a special permit, which Rob will go into the technical details as to why we need all of the standards of safety and health and public welfare, including facts like the Board of Health has already granted approval for the well. So the essence of it is that we would not need even if we need a special permit, we can connect, Rob has the lot number, the front lot, to the public water line that's out there. And we wouldn't therefore need a variance for not connecting to public water. So that's part two. Part three is if you believe that we do need to connect, we have strong basis for a hardship, which is why there was a variance application that was applied. So I won't go there yet.
Attorney Freeman, is the hardship financial?
The hardship is both financial and the difficulty of connecting, including Mass Highway, Mass DOT, Department of Transportation standards.
Thank you.
To run a line about 1,900 feet.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, as I say, we hope and believe that you don't need to get into the variance. If you do, naturally, we'll give a fuller explanation. So I'll stop there, and I think it makes sense, Rob, for you to go back and explain the details as to how this works and the approvals that you already have. You already mentioned an email letter from the fire department, but I think you should explain the guts of the layout and where things are located and how it works, and how we comply with the criteria in the wetland bylaw. Should it be applicable?
This is the old one.
Sure. And not to correct you, Mr. Freeman, it's Greg.
I was gonna say, but I was waiting for Rob. I didn't know who
Talking
Rob.
about
Don't
cell.
worry. The client is Rob.
The
so-
client's, no,
Yeah.
I was wondering who Rob was.
So,
I saw celebrity, but I was like, is that what they called it?
so the zoning bylaws, section 1301 is your inland wetlands district. 13.01B is the definition of the district, and it includes specific language that a parcel of land with which respect to a building or use permit is sought shall not be subject to provisions of this article if, and it identifies three particular things. The letter that was submitted, in the plans that have been submitted, we feel meet the criteria of those three things that Article 13 wouldn't apply at all. And in that case, the request for the special permit and even the request for the variance would be a moot point. The three items are that the property has to be partially outside of the inland wetlands district. In this case here, you'll see that a substantial portion of this property is outside of the inland wetlands district. And the contiguous portion outside the boundaries of the district have to equal at least 80% of the minimum area requirements in Article 6. This property is in the R1 zoning district. It requires a minimum of 43,560 square feet. 80% of that is 34,848 square feet. We have 18 acres on this site. Approximately half of that is upland area. We greatly meet the 80% requirement. It's not 80% of the property, it's 80% of the minimum lot size in the district, if you look at this as an entire piece. And thirdly, that the proposed building or use will take place on the portion of the parcel outside of the inland wetlands district. So the proposed buildings are all outside of the inland wetlands district. And as the memo from Attorney Freeman states, the road is not a use that's identified in the table of uses in the zoning bylaw. So while the road may cut through the district, it is not considered a use, I think is the gist of his memo. If those three criteria are met, there's no need for a special permit on this property.
Bob, do you have anything to say?
This project requires a use permit. Filling of land is a use that's allowed by special permit, and the filling is occurring in the inland wetland district. It requires a special permit. So I think for that reason, this requires variance.
Okay.
It's listed on the table of uses as item number 25, filling of land or water. References section 305, 11-03. I think 600 feet or more of roadway and a box culvert are located in the inland wetland district. So I think I agree with them about the subdivision roadway in and of itself, but we have an activity that's only permitted by special permit, and that's a use permit.
Okay.
So, Greg, as you recall, there's going to be a significant earth-moving project in order to build this roadway. I forget how many truck trips, but it was more than a dozen. In light of that, would you agree that you do need that special permit for that filling in order to build the roadway?
So for the subdivision project, yes, we're bringing fill in on the lots as well as the road.
Uh-huh.
So when we look at the email that was received today from the building commissioner, he references two special permits for the inland wetlands district. One for the import of the fill and moving material within the district. The second one being the discharge from the stormwater detention basin system. What's absent in his interpretation today or email today is the need for the C1 special permit, which was construction of a house in the district. Arguably because we've gotten the house outside of the district.
Yet you've moved all the structures outside of that district.
Correct,
So you no longer need that special permit.
correct,
But you still need the special permit to put in the road and to fill the lots for the
Correct.
foundations.
correct. So when you look at section C, which is the permitted uses, there's three permitted uses here. C1 is construction of a new structure for human occupancy, which has a requirement of having water and sewage facilities, a building. But the permitted use C2 is dumping or filling of the land. Dumping or filling of the land certainly doesn't require a water connection. And C3 is construction of a pond or a drainage water course. Again, that doesn't require any sort of connection to a municipal water supply. So while we need the special permit under C2 and C3, when you go to the special permit criteria, which is section F,
Andrew's got it up there.
section F, the first item for those special permits is, it says the lot shall be served by a public water system. We feel that that applies if you were going for the C1 special permit, where you're placing a structure in the district that would require water and require sewer. We're not requesting that C1 special permit. We're requesting it because of fill under a road, and we're requesting it because of the construction of the discharge from the drainage system, neither of which require a municipal water connection. The structures are all outside of the district. The wells have been approved by Board of Health and Conservation Commission at this point. You have a letter from the fire department supporting their use.
Do you have a new letter?
What's that?
Do you have a new letter from,
We have an email from Deputy Corbo.
Nancy, do you have that?
I don't know if I do.
I have the original one. Do you have another one from Deputy Corbo?
I do, it was from,
I have the
last
one
week,
from March 11th.
from April 3rd.
Yeah, we don't
This
have
one.
that.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
What does?
What does it say?
Curious to hear what Andrew has to say.
Yeah.
I'll just take it back after it's not.
Okay.
You want me to read it?
It's received. Okay.
Piece.
The top part?
Did you read just the fine print only?
Yeah, from Thomas Corbo, Marshfield Fire Department, to Greg Morse about Marshfield Hill Estates, well, sprinkler systems. Greg, it is true that the comments that were made in my response to you were made assuming that there was a municipal water supply available for the development. If that is not the case and you are allowed to go forward with this project, then yes, a water supply from a water cistern would be acceptable as long as there are stamped engineered plans that would verify its compliance. Well, while we're reviewing this, this was an updated map that was sent to us today.
Yes.
So I noticed that you moved the house on lot 2 to
Yes.
outside the purple line. But I also noticed the addition of a new green line, and I can't really see it on the screen here.
What?
What was that green line that was added in?
Two changes were lot 2 being moved outside the district.
Yep.
And then this line right here is a boulder wall on the back side.
Oh, that's that
of the
retaining
retention
wall.
basin.
So that green line that now shows up was already there.
That was already there. The
All right.
green line is the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetlands.
Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
it is.
So Andrew has up there what we're looking at over here. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see the line.
So Andrew, do you want to speak on this at all?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think it would be helpful, just real quick before Mr. Stewart speaks. If the separate bylaw special permit for fill, separate and apart from the inland wetlands district bylaw, is applicable, then it does appear that we would also need the inland wetlands. But I do respectfully submit, and I've known Bob Gallifin for a long time, and we often agree, and sometimes we disagree. I don't think that fill is a use, and the definition of use in your bylaw itself says the following, which is why
It's in the table.
not just the road, but the fill, I do not believe is a use. Your bylaw, section 305-2.01, definition section, defines use as, quote, the purpose for which a structure or a lot is arranged, designed, or intended to be used, occupied, or maintained. So we don't have a structure, we don't have a building. The fill isn't the purpose for which it's designed and intended to be used. So that's why I say what we're doing here doesn't qualify as a use. And then you go back to what I said initially in my remarks and in the memo. The inland wetlands jurisdiction talks about jurisdiction being triggered. I'll just read it again. It won't apply to a parcel of land with respect to which a building or use permit is sought. So when you tie the definition of use together with that jurisdictional exemption section, I think it's very clear that the fill itself, just like I said about the road, isn't seeking a use permit.
Well, Attorney Freeman, you would agree that filling is an activity, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And filling in the district is an activity that requires a special permit or a variance.
Well, it's.
So,
it would
so
be a
if
special-
it's an activity, it's a use. And I think it's a use that needs a use variance.
Well, I don't think a use variance comes into play. I think the variance under the inland wetland bylaw is solely because of the requirement to connect, although we say to a municipal water supply, although we, as Rob explained, as Greg explained.
We can just agree his name's Rob. It's all good.
I think he'll answer to that.
And not seeing them in person, sorry about that. But in any case, it's not a variance because of the fill. The variance isn't needed for that. It would be needed for municipal water, not having a municipal water line connection. but we think that that's moot now. But again, it is call it a strict construction. But it seems as though, you know, it's sort of almost a catch-22. The standards in the bylaw and the wetlands do talk about fill, but you don't get there if the section isn't applicable, is not applicable. So,
Brian, can I chime in here? I think I have a solution to everybody's problems.
Sure.
God bless you then.
All right. So, this is Andrew, the building commissioner. Nice to speak with you. I will say that filling of land is described in our table of use as requiring a special permit. It's actually listed as a use requiring a special permit if it's over 500 cubic yards or more. So that is something that not only is listed as a special permit condition in the bylaw, but also is listed explicitly as this use number 25, filling of land and water area, and it requires a special permit in every district in Marshfield. So just the filling of land requires the special permit. Now, the way I look at it right now, and I explained this in my email to them today, we currently have 2 lots that are proposed to be subdivided. We have a lot in the front, and we have a lot in the back, which is landlocked and can't be accessed. So under the doctrine of merger, these are considered the same under the zoning perspective, okay? So what I suggested is you have this use, the filling of land that has to be addressed for this lot. We then have some of that activity of filling of land that's happening in here in the inland wetlands district. And we have the alteration of a water course, which is this intermittent stream that goes underneath through a culvert with some wetlands replication, right? So that's the alteration of the water course, is the intermittent stream being done through this area. So you have the fill and the alteration of the water course in the inland wetlands district. So those are the things. Now, the big concern here is the water supply. Now, we are treating this, I am treating this as one conforming lot that we're doing this permit on, this special permit on. And the lot that they said, if it's going to be developed, it has to be serviced by a public water supply. So the interesting thing is, if you look, and the computer's locked up.
Scanning. I can see it scanning.
But Greg can confirm this, that first lot is going to be, the first house there is going to be serviced by public water supply. Is that right, Greg?
That's correct.
So you are going to have public water supply servicing this lot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I think we meet that condition, and they don't need a variance for that.
Okay.
I appreciate that, and I would accept that analysis.
Bob, how do you feel?
My opinion hasn't changed. It's a table of use. Filling is a use permit that's required in order to even get to the whole subdivision thing. I agree with Attorney Freeman about his analysis of a subdivision roadway not being a use in and of itself, but the special permit is, and if you look at the definition of use, it's the purpose for which a lot is arranged, designed, intended to be used, occupied, or maintained. They're gonna maintain the fill on this lot.
But Bob, we're not arguing about not needing a special permit under the fill section, different from the inland wetlands. And we're not, you know, I mean, I'm reserving my client's rights naturally, but because Mr. Stewart agrees, and it's black and white, that we can connect, will connect, looking at it as the one lot, a lot that's fronting on the street, there's water there, we will connect. So we're not saying we don't need the special permits, we're saying, as Mr. Stewart said, we don't need the variance because we will be connecting to the public water. So we satisfy that element of the inland wetland bylaw.
I don't think that's the spirit or intent of the bylaw. It says the lot shall be served by a public water system.
Well, it will be.
Just on the
The building commissioner is looking at it as one combined lot.
Well, I thought I just heard that you're putting in wells for every other lot other than the first one.
Yeah.
So we,
The reason they
So
can't connect
how we're
is not enough
looking at it,
water line.
how Andrew Stewart has presented it is looking at it as one property right now, which meets the criteria. It meets the connection to the water supply out front. that the subdivision isn't approved, the lots themselves aren't approved at this point. The lots won't be released for some point in time when the road is built. Those lots that are outside of the district have all been designed to meet the exemption in the front of the bylaw, and it wouldn't apply to those at that point in time. You may need a special permit on lot 2, 3, and maybe lot 8 out back at that point in time that those get built on. But they're not being built on because those lots don't physically exist yet.
It just says development conditions. It doesn't say lot condition. It says development conditions. For the development of land within the inland wetlands district, the following conditions shall apply. The lots shall be served by a public water system.
So you're
Just
saying
read the
just
plain
because you're gonna hook up the front house, you're considering one big lot at this point, so connecting water to the front lot says that the lot is being serviced by public water, correct?
Then the special permit should only apply to lot 1.
But the filling is gonna
Applies
take
to the other
place,
9.
sorry?
It applies to the other 9.
Well, it's just one lot that's going to be filled
Yeah.
for now.
But no-
I
Notice
mean,
it, well,
because the subdivision doesn't exist.
I thought there's filling associated with prospective house lots too, beyond the roadway area.
So the fill is not just for lot 2, or what
There's
is
some
it, 2?
lot,
It's
there's a
all
lot of lots being filled, but a lot of the fill is not in the inland wetland district, but I believe lot 2 has some fill in the inland wetland district too. Am I wrong about that, Greg?
Lot 2 has filled.
I am disinclined to grant a variance, but I am inclined to grant the special permit to allow for the filling, just so you know where I'm coming from. And if Andrew's suggestion of splitting the baby works for the board, I'm in favor. Just so you folks know where I'm coming from.
Thank you.
Rob,
I'm in
Rob.
peaceful agreement.
You're in what?
I'm in peaceful agreement with that.
Why?
The idea.
I'm curious, I'm not.
Yeah, no, it's just the idea of understanding that this is one lot right now that meets the conditions that are set forth. Gives us the opportunities to also then apply what needs to be when they come back to look to develop those other lots.
But they're not applying for this as they're applying for it as one project, not just one lot. So that's where I'm having a problem, because this is one project. You didn't just come in for lot 2 for something. Do you know what I mean? It's a whole project. We have the whole thing here, so we know what the plan is because you've laid it out. So now you're gonna cut up the pie. I'm having a hard time with that.
Personally, I think the information we got tonight
I think we need to
with the
process
new
it.
attorney, stuff Bob's saying, what Andrew said is all new and it's very interesting and it makes a
Need a
lot of sense, but I personally would like some time to review this because we just got this information tonight. We heard Andrew's, I like Andrew's theory. I just would like some time to process that. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Yeah, I could go for a little bit of time to absorb this. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with
I'm
the
just trying to,
I mean, have we used this theory before for something else, Andrew?
we
Like,
have,
I've
but
never heard of this. I'm just,
what I think Andrew's trying to do is he's trying to connect, there's a puzzle in front of us.
right,
And he's trying to get the pieces to work.
I can explain my logic on this,
Right.
really.
Okay.
Right, so, and even I think it's, Greg Morse is not, or Celebrity is not
Rob.
applying,
Rob.
Rob. He's not applying for these individual house lots, right? They're, the use, like, this is the thing, it's like, you gotta figure out which bite of the apple we're gonna take here. And so the approach that I took was that you have a conforming lot in the front and you have the landlocked lot in the back, common ownership. And so zoning, when we look at zoning, we have done that many times where we take 2 lots in common ownership and then you merge them and treat it as one for zoning purposes. We've done that all the time. So that's the way I was looking at this. And so you have basically one lot with multiple spots that are within the inland wetlands district. you're proposing, an activity to develop this parcel. And in developing that parcel, you're required to bring in fill, okay? And that fill is gonna go over 500 cubic yards, so you need to get a special permit for that fill. So that is what they're asking for, is to get the fill to do all this development on the property. But some of that fill is located in the inland wetlands district, and they're gonna alter the water course. Now, you know, they have already gotten conservation approval for the alteration of the water course and the replication of the wetlands and all of that. So I think that those matters as far as whether that would be environmentally safe and everything, has kind of been taken care of already. You know, the houses themselves are not in the inland wetlands district. So I think that that's part of that aspect where I kind of do agree with Attorney Freeman, where they aren't in the inland wetlands districts, and I don't know that the houses themselves individually, after this permit is granted, have to be serviced by a public water supply if the Board of Health and the fire department don't have a problem with it. And if we're going to get, you know, our bite at the apple of the filling of land and the inland wetlands district permits and everything, technically, I think that, and we have to treat it as one parcel, and in order to do that, then technically, I think the proposal that the first house right there on the lot gonna be serviced by a public water supply, kind of meets that criteria. It doesn't mean that they don't still have to live up to all the rest of the standards of the entire inland wetlands district bylaw.
To me, it's just getting a little messy. I think I'd be more aligned to granting a variance, acknowledging what would be being done there if we're gonna do it at all, is to allow a variance. I think Bob is absolutely right. One big lot, we're going with it, well, we hook up the front house, everything else is exempt from town water. I don't think that was the intention of the bylaw.
No.
If this was gonna go forward, I would rather acknowledge what is actually going on and allow a variance at that point, if the board so fit, but acknowledge what's going on. I think this,
I think for me, I'd like to at least take till the 22nd. Is that our next meeting, Nancy?
Pardon me?
22nd?
22nd.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
that's fine by me.
Any chance to read this? Yes.
Okay. It's gonna, you guys okay with that?
Yes.
All right. So
I
I'm gonna,
will be there, but I'll let you know my opinion beforehand.
Who's
okay.
not gonna be there? Yeah.
Who-
Who's not that?
Andrew, is that you?
Is that, I think,
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to make the 22nd meeting. I've got a personal thing I gotta do, but,
Okay.
I'll definitely get my notes before the meeting.
All right, awesome.
thank you. And Andrew, thank you for your suggestion.
Yeah, it's a great one. So I'm gonna move that, we move Celebrity to 422. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye?
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good night.
Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So now we have 2457 Angela Vasurka, 16 Wilson Road. Petitioner is requesting a minor modification to increase the size of an 18 by,
Continue both of them.
We have to continue both of them.
Oh,
and also continue 2502A Celebrity Realty. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye?
Mac Brothers, aye.
Out.
So we have Angela, 2457 Angela Vasurka, 16 Wilson Road. The petitioner is requesting a minor modification to increase the size of an 18 by 20-foot addition that was approved in August 13, 2024, meeting to 20 feet by 20 feet. Andrew, you had, did you feel that this was okay, or?
Oh my God, I'm freezing.
Is he there? Andrew?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having difficulties with the computer here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just, I didn't really know, you know, if they should come for a whole new special permit or if they could ask the board for a modification, so I recommended that they come and speak to the board to find out.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Do you feel it's a minor modification from your point of view?
What?
I can't make that determination because we've got, I mean, I talked with Angela about it and everything, and I talked with the contractor. I don't think it's gonna result in a substantial improvement because of the costs and everything.
Okay.
It's not gonna do anything that way. That's more what I'm concerned about. As far as, that's up to the board is to determine whether it's more, or less detrimental.
All right. Bob, go ahead.
Well, I gave you my comments.
We don't have them.
Right.
What he's proposing to do isn't gonna require new relief in any way, shape, or form. He's just taking the back deck or whatever the room is there and extending it by 2 feet,
Right.
not getting any more. I really think this is de minimis.
The minimum.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
uncovered
I
deck.
mean, sometimes you get out there and you see something, you're gonna be 1 foot this way and that way. This is 2 feet, but he doesn't need any more relief. So
No.
I really do think that this is minor.
All right.
Is it the deck?
He's not gonna violate any
Not a
new
deck.
It's
setback
not the-
requirements.
It's the addition.
It's the addition.
It's not the deck. it's
No,
the-
Right,
that,
you did.
that couldn't go on because it would have been a substantial improvement.
Gotcha.
We had to hold that off.
So does the board see this as a minor modification?
I do. I do.
I do.
I do.
Yes.
So what do we have to vote? 2457-16 Wilson Road is a minor modification. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coney, aye. I'm sorry.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2462 Cut River Meadow Irrevocable Trust, Patrick Ring, trustee, 19 Pearl Street. The petitioner is requesting a minor modification to extend the generator platform for first responder, electrician, et cetera access. Go ahead. Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Joe Ring, 19 Pearl Street,
Patrick Ring, 19 Pearl Street.
and as stated, we are asking for a minor modification to extend the generator platform so that the emergency responders can get to the shut-off valves, the shut-off switches for the solar panel and for the generator. When the house was elevated, they're over hand reach
Yeah,
and got to be able to pull the plug.
okay.
There's no other safe way without completely rewiring everything to do that.
We don't, I don't have any plans or
Have
anything.
nothing.
These are from the original plans?
Do we have it?
Do you have the dimensions of what you're proposing?
Yes, I gave Nancy a
Nothing
drawing.
tonight. I don't have anything yet.
There is a set of
Can I
plans.
take my screen or no?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
'cause I don't have anything.
Oh, I didn't get paper copies. I just sent it electronically.
I don't have anything with me.
Okay, too many things going on, so,
Andrew's going to pull it up on the screen.
thank you, Andrew. So in the blue are the permitted pieces. We have a generator platform that, and the stairs on the side of the house. And what we're proposing is an additional platform connected to the 2 blue platforms so that responders can come up the stairs and go through the door that is now in the zoom line, or go through a gate in the zoom line and cut across to the back of the house where the electrical services are hanging.
Okay. Andrew, you okay with this?
Doesn't seem minor.
Well, if they're just attached.
Yeah, like you said, the generators on the platform over here, I believe there's, the solar stuff and the electrical service are right over here, but there's currently no access to it. When you elevate a house, and you elevate the service, the electrical company requires that you provide access, whether it be a platform or some sort of a fixed ladder to a platform or something so that they can stand on and access the meter. So that's essentially what Joe is looking to do, Joe and Patrick are looking to do. They have the stairs up to get into the house. The stairs come up and then you walk into the house, and they have this existing platform here for the generator. So they're just asking to connect that, and because it wasn't part of the original approval, I asked them to come back as well.
So which side of the road is this on? Like, so
This is facing.
Pearl goes this way. Okay, thanks.
further up.
So is this on the side that's close to the neighbor?
Yeah, it's in this area right here, so it's within that, I think they moved the house back a little bit, so it wasn't within 5 feet of a lot line, so they didn't have to do the fire rated. But that's where that platform and generator are.
And again, Andrew, this is an open platform,
Yes,
and it's for access to the utilities?
yes.
It'll be otherwise closed off.
So is there access from the house to get into that?
The access will be up the stairs with a gate at the top of the landing, right where his cursor is right there. So that, where his cursor is now,
Yeah.
is where the door
Where you
is.
go in now.
And then off to the side, there'll be a gate there.
I think that's a lot on that side. What, you can't have just two ladders that go up there on either side, either platform?
When I spoke with the electrical inspector, he was really looking to have a platform so that it was safer for the responders. Eversource was much more inclined for a platform than a ladder. And that's how we came to that. You've got the generator and the solar both up there. Generator's over here, solar's over here. So you know, 4 or 5 feet different.
Probably,
So you'd have to have two ladders
Yeah.
on the ground.
It's just a lot next to that house where, you know, that's pretty close to that house line already, very close, actually.
Yep.
So that's, I,
But the blue's already there. The blue's
correct.
The blue is already there, yes.
right, so that's close enough, and now we're gonna add another piece to it.
Well, this
Now
will
it
be
looks like it
further
wraps
away.
all the way around.
Okay, it's,
From that house,
this one is behind their garage.
so further away from the house that you're,
So it's still the same distance from the lot line, though, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're very close to the lot line as it is.
Yep.
Right, so now you're gonna wrap something else around it. I just have an issue with it, everything being that close to the lot line, and their garage or shed or whatever it is right there. And it's cozy down there, so I mean, I think I think this is a bigger deal. It's 13 feet. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the point, Heidi, but if this was coming to us in the first instance, I'd be inclined to permit it. It's an extension of a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and, you know, given that it's for utility access and for the people that work on those, it's gonna make their work go more quickly. It'd be less intrusive to the neighbors, to have the work take place safely and more quickly, rather than trying to work on a ladder, which has its own set of dangers. I'm inclined, and I don't disagree with your point that it's awfully close, but I'm inclined to permit it.
Did you not know you needed this before somehow? How did that get like missed? That's a kind of a
I mean,
big
that-
deal,
that would be a
right?
Question for the town, right?
I'm sorry?
That would be a question for the town because it was approved by the town,
Yeah,
so.
We don't know how it,
I think it would have been a question for your contractor,
Well,
to be
I'll
perfectly
stop
honest with you.
Okay, so you're elevating the house. The utilities are already there.
Yep.
You know, providing access to them is required by the code. And you guys, you know, are pulling the homeowner permit by yourself, so
Right.
you're responsible to meet the code.
Yep,
And it's up to you guys to propose how to meet the code.
that's what we're doing.
Right?
Well-
So that's the answer from the town.
Yeah,
right.
Strictly
Yeah, I
speaking, it does currently meet the code. The question is there a safer and a better way to do it? And I think there is. And I think if you make it, you know, an access-only platform for work on the utilities, it
and that's exactly what we're proposing,
and,
Yeah.
and we only
based on the
came,
providers.
you're right, we only came here at the request or the advisement of utility providers.
Yeah.
The town inspectors.
I totally get that. I'm on board with it.
It was the right thing to do. It was the safest thing to do. Safer than going up a ladder.
Yeah.
It's gonna be access for this purpose only. So you're looking at, hopefully, if there's never a responder who wants to go up there,
Yeah, ideally.
then you've got maintenance.
Yeah. So I'm inclined to permit it as an access-only platform.
Yeah, so Larry, you okay with it?
I'm fine. I don't see an issue
You
with it.
don't like it, Heidi?
No.
How do you
I
feel,
think it's
Jane?
too close. I think it's dangerous.
I'm fine with it.
JJ?
Where is he?
I don't have a particular problem with it. Is there, Andrew, is there anything in the, where it's in a flood zone, does it matter with the deck? I know there's like deck height issues when it comes to, being in a flood zone. I don't know if that comes into account.
It's up 16 feet, right? Is that what it says,
It's,
16?
Andrew's not there right now, Grover, but it appears to be the same height as the other two existing decks.
He's having trouble with his computer.
Did it
Yeah,
say
Andrew's
16
having
feet?
trouble with his computer right now.
We're elevating the house because we are, I've lived there all of my life. My family's owned the house for 100 years. And the water is coming in. And we've never had water when I grew up there, and it's coming in.
Yep,
And it only makes sense to put the house up if we're gonna take care of the house.
yeah, good for you.
All right, I'm gonna move that,
I don't particularly have a problem with it, no.
all right. I'm gonna move that, 2462 Cut River Meadow Irrevocable Trust, Patrick Ring, trustee, 19 Pearl Street. We grant the minor modification to extend the generator platform for first responder, electrician, et cetera, access. Do I have a second?
Access only, not a deck.
Access only, not a deck.
Second,
Sorry, Heidi.
All in favor?
Access only, not a deck.
Larry Keane, aye.
Ryan Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
Heidi Conway, no.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Or Venzia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ed, so now we'll have you update us, any status on the bridal crossing? They have their permits, or?
So, hello, everybody. For the record, I'm Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering. And what I've found most recently is that the applicants finally recorded the plans. I don't have the date in front of me, but they did record them and finally sent them to me the other day. They did finish MEPA review and sent me the MEPA certificate, which dated last month. The two things that were left to be done were, besides recording the plans, which had been ready to be recorded apparently for a while, but needed a couple of little edits, which I finally reviewed and approved them to go ahead and record. But the two main things that they needed was to get their updated MEPA certificate. So they were under the false impression that the MEPA certificate they had acquired some years ago for the site could be modified, or was in force, or was not. And also to get an updated natural heritage permit, what's referred to as a conservation and management permit. Because they exceed a certain number of acres of disturbance, they have to go to the MESA unit, Massachusetts Endangered Species Act unit, the Natural Heritage Environmental Protection Program folks. So one of the reasons they had to go to MEPA was because they had to acquire a natural heritage conservation and management permit, a CMP. And MESA did comment, natural heritage folks did comment on the MEPA certificate application. So the environmental notification form that was filed and the follow-up review was all done in the last 60 days. And the conservation and management permit, ironically, is kind of a chicken and egg thing. They can't issue it until the MEPA review is done. Now the MEPA review is done, and I understand that the conservation and management permit is pending. I don't have a good feel for when that would be released, but I guess it's pending soon. So they're down to their last thing that they would need to recover the site and continue some of the work they started to do, site preparation, all they had started, and to do did some site clearing to start to do some earthwork. So no further action yet. I'm waiting to hear. We're all waiting to hear, I should say. I'm sure that Kevin Seelan and his team will, Darren Grady and such will certainly let us all know when that happens and when they have it. They will also be required to record that permit, the conservation and management permit, and then it'll be valid. So I think they're well on their way to getting into compliance and into good stead permitting wise. And, you know, if I hear something and I notice that, the board isn't, and Nancy isn't, and Andrew, Stewart isn't notified for whatever reason or part of that notification, I'll make sure that everyone gets notified. So, I'll just leave it at that, that's underway.
Thank you.
Also, recent activity on the Marshfield Forum called Marsh Vegas.
Yeah, Marsh Vegas and Marshfield Forum on bias. Jay, is Andrew's computer not working or?
He's not here, so he's remotely. I don't have his phone number, so I can't.
Oh,
He's not in the office either.
oh, so we can't run any of the stuff we have?
What?
Yeah, I can't.
Wait a minute.
I'll send a request to share my screen and I can share some of the things, Brian, that
Yeah,
you said.
Where did he go?
Where did Andrew go?
Rob,
His computer locked
set
up?
me up in my office
I can definitely do that.
and I can share the screens if
Okay.
that works.
Yeah.
Is that the easiest thing?
Cause Ed, do you have everything or?
I have your 5 Marsh Vegas posts.
Yep.
Each. I
And you have your letter.
My latest.
Can you let Ed
Or
share?
he's allowed to share right now, so.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Do that instead?
Perfect, yep. All you have to do
I
is.
requested to share, well, let me, now, well, good,
All right,
all set.
Where is Andrew?
I have no idea.
I tried calling him, I couldn't get him.
Did you know this was happening? That Andrew was leaving?
No, I didn't. All right, so, these are the, posts. I mean, if you scroll down, Ed, a few,
Maybe a larger.
I don't know what.
right, start right there at that one. It's fine with me.
Can you
So what-
enlarge it?
So basically what it says is a question to John Clifford. So it starts with this, running with the aforementioned candidates number theme. Number 1, there are very few, he's answering, septic systems over the aquifer because the town bought the land all around it with your tax money to protect it. That's inaccurate, correct, Ed? I mean, we didn't buy any of the land. It's all surrounded by homes that have existed for over 100 years.
There is certainly some town-owned land around it, but that's been that way for a while. I don't know the specific dates when various purchases were made. DPW owns some of the land, manages some of the land, as you know, abutting the site, bridle crossing site. But it's not a situation where there's very few septic systems. There's quite a few.
Right.
In and around that area.
There's a huge amount. There's over 100 homes that we counted anyways, but, and then it gets larger. But, and then number 2, it says the ZBA didn't run a decent study and we had to pay for another $100,000 for a crappy self-contradictory study.
Can you make this bigger? Ed,
Like that
somehow?
study, Ed, I'm
I'm
assuming
sorry.
he's talking about the one the DPW did. We didn't do a study, we did, analysis of
Correct, and I wanted
project.
to correct that comment, and if I may.
Yeah, please do.
I'll go to
Your
this.
page.
This is his post that is
Yeah.
reformatted, and the items that are in yellow are the things that I took a look at.
To address.
At Brennan, and PGB Engineering, and so Pat and I looked at this together and put responses together. So he mentions, sorry, I'm going for that one, sorry, I started with the other one first, my apologies. So, yeah, so it says very few septic systems of the aquifer. Number 2, the ZBA didn't run a decent study. Number 3, the ZBA said publicly that the study didn't look at the entire aquifer, it fell short, but voted to allow the strip mining anyway. All right, I mean, you've got several different items in here, right, that are false and misleading. Number 4, our sewer system can be extended all the way to the Big Dig. You don't have a sewer system there yet, so I'm not saying it can't be. That's something that the town would have to wrestle with in a future comprehensive wastewater management plan. So that's just something long-term. Number 5, wells being threatened by failed septic systems in other sections has nothing to do with the big dig. And he says, stay on topic. Number 6, I'm not in a butter. Apparently he's responding. Number 7, you're looking for admissions and apparently support the big dig strip mining. I ask you to admit, pick one of these others. So he continues on and says, you're on a private well, A, B, profiting from the big dig, C, don't care about our aquifer, or D, it wouldn't be the Board of Public Works I'd run for, it would be the Water System Department that is responsible for protecting it. Mentions the civics lesson, and that the department is and was steadfastly against the big dig, and they are the experts. Meaning the water department, I would assume, but I'm not quite sure. It kind of bounces around. And underneath that, we decided to write the following responses. So the number 1 item is false. There are over 650 septic systems over this particular aquifer. Each single-family system is sized to serve a minimum of 3 bedrooms. That equates to 214,000 gallons per day, 14,500 gallons of effluent each day that existing septic systems discharge to this aquifer. So remember, there's 88 bedrooms.
9,800 gallons a day, theoretically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to grab my calculator because I didn't remember what it was, but a lot smaller, less than basically 10%, not even 5% of that number.
Right.
Number 2, the ZBA didn't run the study, the DPW ran the study. I think it's all clear to members here tonight that we had some input to it, but we did not oversee that work. We tried to focus some of the work of the way that the runs were being done. And simply, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, simply because the work that was done in April, May of last year, the report that was accompanying it, that was filed or produced in June, did not properly analyze it, in our opinion. We asked for an additional study that took 9 months later, this spring, time to actually get accomplished, to verify that some of the assumptions were unfortunately a little overzealous and also worst case, and didn't accurately represent the existing conditions. And in my opinion, and maybe some of you as well, made some people in town very concerned, and incited a lot of fear and uncertainty in a lot of the members of the public when it was false to do that. So anyway, we'll continue here. Item B here, he's referring to item number 3 in the comment above. The study targeted the Bridle Crossing project and did not, this is the groundwater study that I'm referring to, did not look at the entire aquifer. The study also did not take into account that the groundwater from Bridle Crossing property flows in an easterly direction toward the South River and not in a northerly direction toward the wells. So again, one of the assumptions that was worst case used to help draw a conclusion that it was inaccurate was that it was that the water, worst case was at all the wastewater from Bridle Crossing that contained PFAS was heading to the wells. Okay. And then D, the Board of Public Works oversees the water division. The water division hires outside experts to perform studies on the town's aquifers because the water division personnel are not experts in this field. So while certainly the Board of Public Works, the water division has a role, the Board of Public Works is the overseer of that. I go back up to this other post that was made.
This is the one that interests me, is the single, you can read it, the single greatest threat to our drinking water in the last few decades.
Yeah, and again, I don't know the exact date. It was recent, right? So it was.
Yeah, he just put that up there.
Done, but I support clean water, drinking water resources, Mr. Sleeper's saying.
No, that's what the candidate said, and then his answer was,
Who's the candidate? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, what are we talking about? Okay.
he's just claiming this is number 8 in a statement. Then he's saying,
Right.
his
The
answer
single
to
greatest
this,
threat to our drinking water is in the last few decades has been the Big Dig Bridle Crossing project. Can you talk about what actions you took to ensure our main aquifer below the project will not be affected? Okay? It says here, the town of Marshfield paid to have done the study, excuse me, the $100,000 study the town of Marshfield paid to have done to examine the threat over our main aquifer didn't go far enough per the ZBA, but was approved by the ZBA nonetheless. I wish to point out that the ZBA didn't approve anything with regard to the aquifer study. The ZBA approved the comprehensive permit as a result of their thorough review. My input, along with Pat Brennan and other consultants that we used, also input from obviously town council, Paul Galvin, and there was good reason for that, which I won't go into today. But we felt that the project was providing adequate protection of the aquifer by providing an advanced wastewater treatment system there. So let me continue. As a candidate for re-election, can you explain to the 700 plus voters who attended the historic town meeting and voted unanimously for the town to contact state DEP for help to determine whether the main aquifer would be compromised and what actions you took to support that clean water after that vote? Now, I'm not responding to Mr. Sleeper or on behalf of Mr. Clifford. I'm just saying here, we were just looking at those comments and trying to comment about that. Item A, regarding the above comment, the single greatest threat. Okay. This statement is false, which is in only one person's opinion, which is not based on the facts. ZBA worked with the developer to utilize a septic system that provides the best available nitrogen reducing technology, which is a DEP certification, not mine or the vendors, and a DEP compliant stormwater collection and treatment system to protect the aquifer. So we looked at the nitrates, make sure it complied with the local nitrogen bylaw. We looked at the stormwater system to ensure that it complied with the DEP stormwater management regulations. And we did look at the aquifer study that was conducted and came to the conclusion that there were some aquifer modeling assumptions and boundary conditions that were, I think, unfairly biasing against the project and against the answer that they came up with, that didn't accurately reflect what they should have looked at. So they looked at, as again, we mentioned already, I'll mention just two of them. One was they assumed that the groundwater flow direction was going straight to the Church Street, Ferry Street wells. The second one was they assumed no recharge for 6 straight months, so 180 days. And then they set that boundary condition and ran the model for over 3 years to determine how long it would take, a 5-year period. And they determined almost 4 years that it would take for PFAS to get to the wells.
And they,
were
so there was
making
the,
a case that is a threat to the wells, that the PFAS is going to get there from the wastewater system. And we're beginning to understand the role of PFAS in wastewater. It's not well understood, it's not regulated, and it's not, completely clear about that. But I think everybody agrees PFAS is something that we should be concerned about. And just those two boundary conditions in the model were unrealistic and very worst case.
Additionally,
So very worst case.
additionally, Ed, it did not take into account all of the other bedrooms in the aquifer.
Correct. So it did not take into account the other systems, septic systems that are nearby, that are closer to those wells and more dense. And so that's what we asked them to do this spring. Okay, and I know we've talked about this briefly, but I'll go through the last couple of comments here, and then I'll get to a couple of other things, one about drought and one about what the study said. So all the existing septic systems, so we said all the existing septic systems in the aquifer are polluting it more than the proposed bridle crossing project will. And unless you have a nitrogen reducing system, then your home is polluting the aquifer more than the bridle crossing project from per capita basis. Wanted to clarify, and I'll say it again here, the 100,000 K study was not approved by the ZBA. That study was commissioned by the Board of Public Works. The DPW determined the scope of the study, which was clearly targeted at the bridle crossing project. At the initial initial start of the project, we received a copy of the scope of the project. Myself and Attorney Galvin looked at it and said, this looks like it's targeting the project and not the whole aquifer. They were telling us we're supposed to look at the whole aquifer, or at least that portion of the Little Creek aquifer, and it was not. It was focusing strictly on this project. So it wasn't, I think, a reasonable engineering representation of what was done. But we had a meeting right after that with the parties involved, including the consultants, to try to focus and understand a little bit what they were doing, and ask them to look at things differently. And unfortunately, that did not happen. So that's why I think, you know, Brian, who was the chair, spoke to the town manager, spoke to select board, and got some funding to run the model differently this time, looking at the other two neighborhoods we've talked about before. And I'll come back to this in a second, but we looked at, I'm sorry, wrong one.
Well, we had a 50% snapshot of what we were looking at, and now we have a whole 100%, and it shows that, like you'll go on to say, Ed, is that if this was a problem, it would have been activated long before now.
Right.
We would have had stuff in those wells, and we have never tested anything positive in those wells.
In the previous memorandum, I mentioned the two blue areas were analyzed. What we affected this spring was to take these two blue areas and create a modeling scenario that's a little bit more realistic, but so that we show the other wastewater sources that is referred to before. But we also wanted to compare apples and apples to show how the actual model was unfairly biased and unfairly and unreasonably modeling parameters were unreasonably chosen. And so we actually didn't ask them to change the flow direction of the well or the amount of rainfall runoff that recharge that it showed. We said, okay, we'll keep those, run the model on these two areas. And we found that Silver Pines would actually pollute the well in less than 3 years. And since Silver Pines has been there a lot longer than 3 years, and the wells currently are not showing the degradation or the concentrations that the model predicted or the model results showed, the modeler actually changed the name of the report, changed the name of the effort, and called it a screening level analysis.
Right.
So what they'll tend to do sometimes is show a really bad worst case, really unreasonable worst case, see what it'll do as a screening tool to see what's happening.
And that's what Mark Kaufman, who did this, said. He never knew it was going to be used in the way it was.
He never expected it to be used in the way it was, so he didn't realize that. So he
But
was a
just-
sub-consultant of the environmental partners team that actually ran this. The environmental partners folks are the ones that briefed you, actually gave public testimony during the public hearings on Bridle Crossing. And that's when myself and my team, we were sitting around going, this is a false result. It's a false result that's just generating data from boundary conditions you're giving the model that aren't realistic or reasonable.
We got several reports.
We wanted to have some additional information to prove it. So, anyway.
But again, over the aquifer where we are right now, if you would go back to that picture, Ed, I would say he says there are very few septic systems over that aquifer. That looks like a lot of homes to me, but that's just my opinion.
We actually did do a very, I think, reasonable estimate. It's probably more.
It is more.
You know, we did an estimate, and this is the memo I gave you last month.
Right.
And this table is in those two areas.
Just those
the number of
areas we
bedrooms-
picked.
The number of bedrooms in single-family homes in each location. And the first one is, of course, Bridle Crossing, and it shows, you know, the land area, the number of bedrooms, and so on. But, you know, Silver Pines, there's over double that.
Yeah,
right?
well, way over that, yeah.
Was almost double that.
Those are just the slices we took too, not the entire, what covers that aquifer.
I didn't.
There's too many houses over it to count.
We were trying to take reasonable areas, and then we picked, we picked a centroid of those polygons to try to come up with a reasonable distance. And said, okay, let's see what that does. Let's see what that result gives us. And it gave us a result that we say, well, we know that's not right. So the parent work that was done in March also, in May of last year, also isn't right. So we
Right.
know, kind of validated that conclusion that I made and recommended to you. Also, I don't want to forget to say this, and we could go on for a while here, and I don't mean to do that.
Yeah, I know.
I'll also say this, that meeting, those folks that showed up, those 700.
700 people, you were there, Ed.
Right, special town meeting. You can't blame them at all for not, for
No.
showing up.
It's terrible.
When their neighbors show up and say, this is a threat to our public water supply, and it's not true, and they don't know any other way to explain it, yeah, I'd be concerned too. I would worry about that too. And that's what this misinformation campaign that was sent out and used, I think was tragic. It was unfortunate. And folks, the other proof in the pudding is you don't have to just listen to me. The letter that was sent to DEP, asking for their input because of the risk that they felt was happening at this site from this project, DEP sent back a letter. Their letter came back saying it was okay. I mean, they said, they listed all the things that they had to comply with, which there are, but they didn't say it was a threat to public water supply. They didn't say that it was a threat you shouldn't approve. They didn't recommend it not be approved.
And that's in our bridal crossing package in the ZBA on our website for people to look at.
I'm very much paraphrasing here, but, the fact that there is no regulatory, pathway for PFAS to be regulated through wastewater. There's no other analysis that I thought was, or other recommendations we could make to the board other than for, the standard engineering practice, the standard engineering review that we do, as well as the other considerations for earth removal, trafficability and so on that we commonly go through. So I think the board made the right decision. I think the board had no regulatory framework to deny the project. And I think that the folks that went to that meeting, those 700 folks that went to that meeting, I understand where they were coming from, but they were misled. I mean, that's basically what we're trying to say.
They were.
misled.
So if,
It was unfortunately that bridal crossing was not the culprit for PFAS or for aquifer pollution that it was made out to be at all.
No, say
hey, Ed, we're gonna let Bob give us a few words before we get into the drought picture.
Okay.
So, I submitted a document called Bullet Points for ZBA, and that's on the website now. And that contains kind of a little bit more of a synopsis of everything that's gone on. Not just the engineering details you're hearing from Ed. Based on what I see here, there's no doubt that the Board of Public Works and the Department of Public Works targeted the Big Dig project. They told the public that they were looking at the whole aquifer, but they changed the contract and they made it only to look at the Bridle Crossing project. The study that was commissioned was clearly tailored to come up with a specific result, to give the impression that the Big Dig project was going to pollute the Ferry Street wells. When that report came out, that report was disseminated publicly. Commissioners spoke about it. Town spoke about it at length. A town meeting presentation was given by a couple of residents that didn't want to see this project built. And a media campaign came out to say that these wells are going to be destroyed by the Bridle Crossing project. I'm very fortunate that we had 3 excellent engineers to review that so that this board didn't get caught up in it. But you'll all remember how angry people were when they were coming to this meeting and couldn't believe that you were conceptually going to approve this project Well, you had the benefit of the information for our engineers, including Ed and Pat and Ed Eichner, who designed the Water Resource Protection District, and they said none of this was true. It's pretty obvious after that point. Mr. Murphy wanted to figure out why they didn't study the rest of the aquifer and what that effect would be. Mr. Murphy gets stonewalled for 6 months by people that were in contact with the engineers for the Board of Public Works. And as a result of that, being stonewalled, Mr. Murphy finally complained to the Select Board. The Select Board authorized that work to be done regardless of whether the Board of Public Works would do it. The work was done. It proves that the Bridle Path project wasn't going to have any impact on this project. And if there was any project that would, it would be the existing development at Silver Pines, which was much larger, much closer, as Mr. Pesci said.
And already in
It's
existence.
crystal clear that $120,000 of taxpayer money was completely wasted to try to stop this project. It cost us another $20,000 to actually, once the work was authorized, to figure out that the Silver Pines project or the existing development there was going to contribute that. $140,000 plus has been absolutely wasted just because somebody didn't like the Big Dig project. You still see people online talking about the Big Dig project polluting. It is absolutely false misinformation. No one has disavowed this report. I can't believe that, with all the money that's been wasted. And someone owes Mr. Murphy an apology because he was absolutely right about this project and got stonewalled. Sorry.
So Ed, if we could discuss the drought as the last piece so we don't bore the world to death here, but,
I think it's fascinating.
yeah, it is. But so the drought conditions, we received, that's been posted online, we had, it was
The
sent.
dinosaur?
Yeah,
That was my offhanded comment. The engineer said, in order for this to work, or she didn't say in order for it to work, but she said,
This
we
EPA
made
or
these
EPA?
assumptions.
Yeah, okay.
We made these assumptions of a 6-month drought. And so I said, a 6-month drought with zero recharge? I said, in recorded human history, that has never happened. You'd probably have to go back to the age of the dinosaurs
Right.
to get a 6-month drought in Marshfield with no recharge. And again, it was kind of an offhanded remark, but factually accurate.
Yeah. Well, Ed, it's in your pictures too. It's in the ones I sent you. That comment is in there.
So as I was having my coffee Saturday morning, I see
choking?
somebody calling me out. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I think I need to have a few cocktails and respond to this guy, which
It's right
glad
here.
you didn't.
It's right.
I did
Yeah,
not
no,
do.
down
Glad
one
you
more.
didn't.
Now blow that up and read the comment.
Very glad you didn't, Brian.
I refrained.
It has
There's
taken a
the-
lot not to have something to
For
say.
the
about
Marshfield
online.
ZBA, one of
Yeah,
whom,
one of whom asked if we've had a drought since the dinosaurs when reviewing the Big Dig, and this comment comes out.
Get the Big
And
Dig.
so I looked at it, what the general public, and it's, I can't blame everyone, for not knowing everything. It's not like their job. I get it. This is what was, this is February of 2025, and it just so happens it was similar to that in October of last year. So I just picked the one from October and just used that because that's when we were looking at it, last fall. And it doesn't matter. It just shows you what you have here. So the drought status in February was, for southeastern Mass, was a significant drought, a level 2 significant drought. And so I just wanted to understand what the heck that was. So I actually went and did some research, and it is based on a number of factors. It's part of the Massachusetts Drought Management Plan dated December of 2023. And there's some science behind all of this, and it's not just about snow and rainfall. It's about a number of indicators. There's 6 of them. And in my write-up, I explained some of that just so you
Right.
understand it. And this is from that drought management plan right here, where it says, the 6 drought indices used are the primary drivers of drought determination, supplemented by other considerations. They are precipitation, which is the primary driver, right? Stream flow, groundwater levels, lakes and impoundments, fire danger, and evapotranspiration. So you can have some wet time, but then you can have some really hot weather and lots of ET, evapotranspiration. So there's a little bit of that going on too. So it's not just looking at the rainfall. But then I wanted to understand, well, okay, if it's a level 2 significant drought, and just after this, in November, October, November, the southeastern Mass area, you can see Cape Cod region was normal. And it was a kind of orange color, significant drought. The southeastern Mass and Marshfield went into a critical drought, level 3. So I wanted to understand what that was. And I wanted to get clear what that was. And so they came up with these severity statistics. And so apparently they look at all these indices, and it's not just done by computer. A person has to decide where they draw the line, and they're actually obviously looking at comparative data. And they actually look at the body of data they've collected over the number of years they've collected it. So it's not just this year's data or the last 10 years data, it's all the data that they have on record. And that's what they explain. So, but using this example, we're in a level 2 severity, right? So level 2 significant drought, for instance. And today we're in mild, just so you know. From the table below, the level 2 indices examined for this area fell between the 10th and 20th percentile values. So they take all these 6 indices and they crank it in to see what it's very big in statistics, right? So there's a little bit of math involved in that, obviously. But I wanted to understand what that meant. So their data fell in between that and called for level 2, which means only 10 to 20% of all available 1 month data that they have for everything, stream flow, precipitation, etc., were lower than the observed month. Okay? I had to think about that and say, all right, how would I say that differently? Put another way, the current conditions, the conditions that month, are drier than 10%, 10 to 20% of all historical data. So 90 to 80% of all historical data, it's drier than 90 to 80% of all historical data. So it's relatively dry, but not without rainfall. Okay, even down to the emergency drought. Emergency drought is kind of close to no rainfall, but it means that 98% of the time, the conditions were drier than 98% of the time. So I mentioned that down here as another explanation, a good way to compare current conditions to historical rainfall patterns. Another example is for the category based on the percentiles for a level 4 emergency drought, less than 2%. Means that the current conditions are drier than 98% of all the previous years meaning multiple years, not that 1 year, years of data. So I guess I wanted everyone to understand that in spite of the fact that it looked dark and it said drought, it's not without precipitation, it's not without something going on as well. So it is definitely not a direct comparison to the modeling condition of no recharge, no rainfall for 6 months.
And not just for 6 months, Ed, but it doesn't exist, there is not a graph out there that can say 6 months of drought, and then you continue that process for 5 years on and off every 6 months. That graph doesn't exist anywhere. You can't find that even if you tried to look for it. And that's what I wanted you to say, and you did, about this. They're using this comparison to what we're doing. It's ridiculous. It doesn't even compare to the drought that was used in that simulation.
Right. So I say, the level 2 drought conditions from last fall were a concern, but it did not indicate that no precipitation had fallen. Again, it is a review of 6 indices that the state used to determine drought levels. However, that is not what the DPW's groundwater model
No.
the consultant environmental partners did. They used it, using their modeling scenario, they used a 6-month period of 0 precipitation and set the conditions with that parameter to run the model for 3+ years to show the potential migration of PFAS and nitrates into the Ferry Street, Church Street public water supply well. By the way, they agreed, I'm not saying I don't want to say they admitted, but they did disclose, we went over this, that they didn't also look at the dilution effect of all the water around the well, the clean water around the well. They're predicting polluted water going there, but there's clean water around the well too. They didn't take that into account either. So they were really looking at worst case, ultra conservative, really unrealistic conditions.
Armageddon.
Just to see what would happen and what it would do. And, you know, they made it sound, unfortunately, to the general public, like that's what's gonna happen. Like that's the result, that's our prediction. Well, folks, if that was the prediction, you would have already had that problem from the Silver Pines neighborhood and the Marshall Drive neighborhood. So it's just not realistic.
And then again, those wells have been tested for years, and there is no PFAS, they're the cleanest wells in this town. Ferry 1, Ferry 2, and Church 1.
It is a great thing that we're all talking about this because it's an emerging contaminant of concern across the country, and that we need to take action to worry about it and to look at it. The DPW, as a result of all this discussion and comment, is adding more kind of sentry wells, if you will, monitoring wells, groundwater monitoring wells, between our site and those wells, those water supply wells, to act as early morning, monitoring, part of their monitoring network. So they recently installed some wells to do that. You know, I have to say the landfill that's nearby is probably a bigger threat than anything. But, you know, that's just, you know, I don't have a lot of other experience with the landfill and other data to support that. I'm just saying, obviously, there's lots of waste there that need to be taken care of, so.
Thank God for the Zone 2, the Marshfield, our landfill is out of the Zone 2. That's the line where it ends, next to our landfill.
Right.
So it
Here's
doesn't
my
go with-
last discussion. It was determined that the initial analysis was more of a screening level effort, and that it did not assume the intake and dilution effects of pumping clean water from all directions, nor any attenuation of dilution of PFAS from the source area. So they purposely didn't include that to see what the result would be. And I'll harp right back on it, but they reported it like that's the result that's gonna happen in 5 years. That's the result that could happen, and we need to change the project to reflect, something different. And it just wasn't true. And it wasn't properly explained, and then it was used in a different manner, or that problem with the way it should have been described or used was not properly explained to the general public, and unfortunately, it created some fear and some concern by a lot of people.
And I will say, the good thing that came out of this, we finished the study. It took from March to March, but we got it done. And the Select Board, the Board of Public Works, and me from the ZBA all worked on this together. And now, we're now looking to go in lockstep forward to set up a water, some type of a meeting that we can inform people that the water in town is safe. All the boards getting together, create a meeting, so the poor 700 people that were scared, they need to be unscared. They need to understand that there's no problems with the water in this town. It's some of the cleanest water around, and we have more than most towns around us.
Did the Board of Public Works make any statement, or are they planning on making a statement to
Because
that effect?
The study hasn't been finished, so Ed, we've sent in some last information. Once everything's complete, and we'll get a write-up in the end. It's just,
We'll get a written report.
yeah,
All we
written
have
report.
is
It's just
slides
technical
with the
stuff.
results, and we've
Right.
given him a few comments, the editorial comments. He called it the Pines area instead of Silver Pines, that kind of thing.
Ed, is there a time frame for when that report will be completed?
I
Think about May 4th, if I was to guess.
Yeah.
Why?
That's the day after the election.
It'll be next month. I mean, I hope it'll be this month, but
Fresh.
probably next month.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I think I'm just, my issue with this whole thing is that people came out because they were scared. They were hearing all this nonsense, and it was nonsense, and they weren't hearing the truth because it was all revved up. And I don't want people to think that we're not paying attention to all the experts, and when they do come in to say something to us, we do listen to it, and it was implying that we were not. And I don't want people to be afraid to come in and say what they have to say, but I would like them to do their homework and listen to the experts that we do hire, because it's important for them to hear the real information and not just gossip or scare tactics because some people don't want something in their neighborhood or whatever the reason was. Still don't know why they would target this to begin with, but
Well, they have an agenda, and the agenda is to stop the development. And their tactic to stop the development was to say it is a threat to the clean water of the town of Marshfield. And if you permit the project, you're permitting the pollution of our wells. So you have to stop the project to save the water. And the zoning board didn't do their job. They just rolled over for the developer. And now we're going to have dirty water. Like, A to B to C. Like, if you read the forum, it's people think that the zoning board is corrupt, that the zoning board doesn't do their job, the zoning board doesn't listen, the zoning board doesn't care about clean water. It's crazy town.
But that's why we thankfully have our studies and the one we just finished. And I'll tell you, the Board of Public Works, myself and the Select Board all work towards getting this done, getting this finalized study, so now everyone can understand that this is ridiculous. But number two is really, and I've talked to Ed, and we all talked about it at the meetings we had, is to getting some kind of a meeting together so we can just let people know, here's the safety stuff. We'll bring in DEP. We already have a letter from them saying that. But we'll bring in someone from the DEP, and we'll talk about, that area down there is really clean water. And the whole premise that water anything from the areas over there, we all know go down to the South River. They don't even go near that well. That well gets the cleanest feed from, the Carolina Hill where there's no development. So it's just, it's too bad that this stuff has to be said out there. And, you can only take so much of someone false information out there, and especially when it's about our board, saying that we've done these things when it's completely false.
Well, also implying that we take direction from the town administrator or anybody else for that matter, because it's not the case. We don't get any input from the select board or the town administrator. We get input from the commissioner, building commissioner, our town attorney, and whatever experts or the applicants. That's it. I have never had a select board member ever how long have we been on this, Brian?
14, well, sorry.
Seems like 100 years.
Since 14.
Ever give us direction on what we need to do or how we need to vote on anything. And I take exception to that, to be honest with you. Because it takes away from what we're really supposed to be doing here. Is each applicant is different, and then it's important for us to be able to listen to the experts that we have in front of us. So I appreciate your time, again, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
everybody else.
And anyone that wants, our information is on the ZBA website, right?
Correct.
Nancy? And it's at the top of the list if you go on the bridal crossing. The most recent information is on there.
Thanks for your time, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, you guys have spent a lot of time on this and a lot of effort reviewing this.
I don't think it's over yet.
You hired a lot of consultants. Bob said it earlier, Ed Eichner, Pat Brennan, myself. We all looked at this and, I had my own meetings with them saying, am I missing anything here?
Right.
And we went over that modeling analysis and didn't like what we saw. And that's when we advised you a certain way for you to make your decision last spring. So the fact that, we spent a lot of time in this, you listened to what we had to say, and you thought about that answer you had to give and that decision you had to make, people in town should not be thinking you've made some kind of rubber stamp decision, because I know better. Mr. Galvin certainly knows better. We struggled with this for many months, and we're still trying to make sure that the right information gets out to the public. And I think having another meeting with the right experts in there to answer questions, because some people are still going to have questions, I think that's a great idea.
I do, and we're still not, we still don't have the final write-up from environmental partners, and
Yeah, we need to make that public when it gets
Yeah.
released. I'll certainly, you and I will probably be the ones to get that first. and then we'll get that out to the post, or for Nancy to post on your website.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks,
Thank
Ed.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Ed.
much.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
See you. Good
Nice to
night.
see you.
I think that's everything, right, Nancy?
That would be enough.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Harry Keene, aye.
Ryan Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Will you call me aye?
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Grover's already gone.
Oh, we lost Grover.
Yeah.
He doesn't do this. He wasn't recused from it.
Oh,